There is a reason you cannot simply let go, even when you know Allah is in control. There is a reason your mind keeps returning to the same fear, the same possibility, the same unanswered question. You may repeat that Allah has written everything. You may tell yourself to have tawakkul. You may hear people say, stop worrying, just trust Allah. Yet inside you, the fear does not disappear. Your body remains tense, your thoughts continue racing, your heart keeps demanding certainty before it is willing to rest. And then another pain begins. You start feeling guilty for being anxious. You wonder whether your inability to relax means your iman is weak. You begin to judge yourself spiritually for something you are already struggling with emotionally. The anxiety hurts, but the shame about the anxiety hurts even more. You ask yourself, why can other people trust Allah while I keep expecting something terrible to happen? Why can I not surrender? Why can I not stop trying to control everything? I want you to understand this carefully. Tawakkul is not emotional numbness. Tawakkul does not mean that your nervous system never reacts, your mind never becomes afraid, or your heart never feels uncertainty. Tawakkul is not pretending that danger does not exist. It is not denying your wound. It is not forcing yourself to feel peaceful when you do not feel peaceful. Tawakkul is a spiritual orientation in the middle of uncertainty. It is the decision to keep returning your dependence to Allah even while your nafs is demanding complete control. For many anxious people, letting go feels dangerous. Control became a form of protection. Overthinking became a survival strategy. Preparing for the worst became a way of avoiding surprise. Emotional distance became a way of preventing betrayal. Constant analysis became an attempt to create safety in a world that once felt unsafe. So when someone tells you to surrender, part of you does not hear, trust Allah. Part of you hears, become vulnerable again. Stop protecting yourself. Allow yourself to be hurt. This is why we need to speak about tawakkul through the language of Islamic psychology. Anxiety is not always a sign of weak faith. Sometimes it is connected to trauma, biology, exhaustion, learned fear, toxic environments, grief, or chronic stress. These realities should not be mocked or denied. Professional therapy, medical care, and wise support can be necessary and beneficial, but Islamic psychology also asks a deeper question. It asks what anxiety is doing inside the nafs, what fear is placing over the qalb, what false forms of dependence are being created, and how the human being can return to Allah without denying the reality of emotional pain. Modern psychology may name the wound, but Islamic psychology asks what happened to the soul. The wound is real, but it is not your final name. Your anxiety may explain some of your reactions, but it does not own your identity. Your fear may be loud, but it is not your Lord. Your need for certainty may feel urgent, but certainty was never yours to control. You were not created to carry the entire future inside your mind. You were created to take responsible action, seek lawful means, make sincere dua, and then place what you cannot control with the one who controls all things. Let me say this clearly. The deepest pain behind anxious tawakkul is not simply that you are worried. The deeper pain is that you do not feel safe unless you can predict what happens next. Your mind is not merely thinking, it is searching for guarantees. It wants assurance that you will not be abandoned, humiliated, betrayed, rejected, financially ruined, physically harmed, spiritually lost, or emotionally overwhelmed. It wants certainty before it gives you permission to breathe. This is why anxious people often confuse thinking with protection. You tell yourself that if you think long enough, you will find the perfect answer. If you prepare for every outcome, you will prevent pain. If you replay the conversation, you will discover what the other person truly meant. If you examine every symptom, you will know whether something is wrong. If you plan every detail, nothing will collapse. If you monitor everyone's behavior, nobody will surprise you. The mind keeps working because it believes stopping would be irresponsible. But there is an important difference between responsible planning and compulsive control. Responsible planning produces a decision and then allows action. Compulsive control produces another question, another possibility, another fear, and another demand for reassurance. Responsible planning recognizes limits. Compulsive control refuses to accept them. It keeps asking the mind to perform a task the mind was never created to perform, to guarantee the unseen. Some of you learned this pattern very early. Perhaps you grew up in a home where moods changed without warning. You had to study people's faces before speaking. You had to predict anger before it exploded. You learned that one mistake could lead to humiliation, punishment, withdrawal, or rejection. Maybe love was conditional. Maybe affection was used as a reward and silence as a weapon. Maybe you were blamed for things you could not control. Maybe your family looked peaceful from the outside, while inside you were constantly walking on emotional glass. When a child lives in unpredictability, the mind may learn that vigilance is safety. That child becomes an adult who cannot relax when things are going well. Peace feels suspicious. Silence feels like a warning. Delayed messages feel like rejection. Small changes in tone feel like danger. The person may say they trust Allah, but their body has been trained to expect harm. Islam does not ask us to deny this suffering. Islam does not tell the wounded person that every fear is imaginary. Islam recognizes grief, weakness, distress, hardship, and the limits of the human being. The Quran presents prophets experiencing fear, sorrow, isolation, pressure, and uncertainty. Their emotional pain did not remove their rank with Allah. Human vulnerability is not automatically spiritual failure. But Islam also refuses to allow pain to become a permanent identity. There is a difference between saying, I experience anxiety, and saying, I am an anxious person who can never change. There is a difference between acknowledging that you are wounded and building your entire personality around the wound. Pain can explain your defensive patterns, but it cannot excuse every harmful choice. Trauma may clarify why you fear abandonment, but it does not give you permission to control, accuse, manipulate, or suffocate other people. Anxiety may explain why you seek reassurance, but it does not mean everyone around you must reorganize their lives around your fear. This is where emotional responsibility begins. I am not asking you to blame yourself for what happened to you. I am asking you to become responsible for what now lives inside you. The person who wounded you may be responsible for the original injury, but you are responsible for whether that injury is allowed to govern your relationship with Allah, your relationship with yourself, and your relationship with other people. The pain must be named correctly. Perhaps what you call lack of tawakkul is partly a fear of being powerless. Perhaps what you call overthinking is an attempt to avoid grief. Perhaps what you call being careful is a refusal to accept uncertainty. Perhaps what you call intuition is actually waswasa strengthened by past pain. Perhaps what you call love is anxious attachment. Perhaps what you call responsibility is the belief that everything depends on you. When you name the pain correctly, you stop fighting the wrong battle. You stop trying to silence every thought and begin examining what the thought is demanding. You stop asking only, how can I stop feeling anxious? And begin asking, what does my anxiety believe about Allah, about the future, and about my own ability to survive difficulty? This question matters because anxiety is often built upon hidden beliefs. If something goes wrong, I will not be able to handle it. If someone leaves me, my life will be over. If I fail, I will have no value. If I cannot control the outcome will destroy me. If Allah loved me, He would not allow me to feel this afraid. These beliefs may not be spoken aloud, but they shape the inner world. Tawakkul begins when these beliefs are brought into the light. It begins when you admit that beneath the fear is often a false demand. Allah must show me the plan before I trust Him. But faith does not work like that. You are not promised access to the entire plan. You are given guidance for the next truthful step. You are given prayer, remembrance, lawful action, patience, consultation, repentance, and reliance. You are given enough light to obey, not enough information to control the decree. The wound is real, but it is not your final name. You are not a hopeless case because surrender feels difficult. You are a human being whose inner system has learned to grip tightly. Healing begins when you understand why you are gripping, what you are gripping, and what you fear will happen when your hands finally open. The Nafs does not like helplessness. It does not like uncertainty, limitation, exposure, or dependence. When the Nafs is wounded, it often creates strategies to avoid feeling small. Some people become controlling, some become avoidant, some become angry, some become emotionally hungry. Some become obsessed with approval, some become perfectionistic, some become addicted to distraction. Different behaviors may appear on the surface, but beneath them is often the same refusal. I do not want to feel vulnerable. Anxiety gives the Nafs a powerful illusion. It says, if I keep thinking, I am doing something. This is why overthinking can feel productive even when it is exhausting you. The nafs would rather remain mentally active than admit, I have reached the limit of my control. It would rather replay the same possibilities than bow before the reality of the unseen. I want you to notice how subtle this can become. You may believe you are trying to solve a problem, but you may actually be trying to escape the feeling of not knowing. You may believe you are seeking clarity, but you may actually be demanding certainty. You may believe you are protecting yourself, but you may be worshipping the illusion of control. I am using the word worship carefully here. I am not saying that an anxious person intentionally worships control. I am saying that the heart can begin to depend on control in a way that belongs only to Allah. You begin to believe that your peace depends upon knowing the future, managing everyone's opinion, preventing every mistake, and securing every outcome. Your tongue says Allah is the protector, but your emotional system says protection comes from perfect planning. This is the battle inside the nafs. Nafs al-ammara, the self that urges toward harmful desire and impulsive reaction, does not only push a person toward obvious sins, it can also push the person toward unhealthy control, suspicion, resentment, avoidance, despair, and haram forms of comfort. When anxiety becomes intense, the nafs may demand immediate relief at any cost. It may seek relief through compulsive scrolling, pornography, emotional dependency, food, substances, gossip, rage, fantasy, secret relationships, or endless reassurance. The nafs says, I cannot tolerate this feeling, give me something now. Then another state appears, nafs al-luwama, the self-reproaching soul. After the escape, you blame yourself, you feel shame. You promise never to repeat the pattern. You call yourself weak, disgusting, hypocritical, or faithless. But if this self-blame does not lead to sincere tawbah, understanding, and disciplined change, it becomes another trap. You punish yourself emotionally without transforming yourself spiritually. There is a difference between muhasabah and self-hatred. Muhasabah means honest self-accountability before Allah. It asks, what happened inside me? What desire did I follow? What fear did I obey? What responsibility did I neglect? What boundary did I fail to establish? What must I repair? Self-hatred does not ask these useful questions. It simply declares, I am terrible. I will never change. Muhasabah opens the door to tawbah. Self-hatred closes the door and calls that closer humility. The wounded nafs also becomes attached. It may attach to a person, a result, a timeline, an apology, a marriage, a career, a diagnosis, a particular version of the future, or even a specific emotional feeling. You do not merely want the thing, you begin to believe you cannot be whole without it. Then tawakkul feels impossible because surrender might mean Allah chooses differently. This is where many people become spiritually confused. They say, I have made dua for years. Why can I not stop thinking about it? Sometimes persistence in dua is worship, but sometimes the nafs has converted dua into a demand. The lips are asking Allah, but the inner self is saying, I will only accept one answer. This is not pure reliance. It is attachment wearing religious language. True tawakkul allows you to ask deeply while remaining a servant. You can desire marriage, healing, justice, children, reconciliation, success, or relief. Islam does not require you to become emotionally empty, but the heart must slowly learn to say, My Lord, I ask because you commanded me to ask. I seek the means because you commanded me to act, but I do not know what you know. Do not let my desire become a barrier between me and you. The wounded nafs also compares. It watches other people receive what you prayed for. Their marriage happens, their business succeeds, their family supports them, their health improves, their life appears easier. Comparison then turns anxiety into a judgment about Allah. You may not say it openly, but inside you begin to ask, why did Allah choose them and not me? What is wrong with me? Am I forgotten? Comparison is dangerous because it turns another person's visible blessing into evidence against your invisible relationship with Allah. You do not know their test. You do not know the hidden cost of what they have. You do not know what Allah has protected you from, delayed for you, or prepared through your waiting. But the nafs does not care about complete knowledge. It wants immediate emotional conclusions. The wounded nafs may also become angry at itself for being afraid. It attempts to force peace through pressure. Stop thinking. Stop feeling, trust Allah, why are you like this? But force often makes anxiety louder. You cannot humiliate the nafs into purification. Tazkiyah is not achieved through cruelty toward the self. It requires truth, discipline, repentance, patience, and mercy that remains accountable. You must learn to speak to the frightened part of yourself without allowing it to lead. You can say, I understand that you are afraid. I understand why control feels safe, but fear will not decide what I believe. Anxiety will not decide how I behave. I will listen to the warning, examine whether it is real, take responsible action, and then return the outcome to Allah. This is the discipline of Tawakkul. It is not one emotional moment, it is repeated inner correction. The nafs reaches for control and you return it to servanthood. The nafs demands certainty and you remind it of its limits. The nafs wants escape, but the qalb needs return. The qalb is not merely the place of emotion. In Islamic understanding, the heart is connected to perception, intention, recognition, moral direction, and spiritual awareness. A person may have a sharp mind and a confused heart. A person may understand religious information intellectually while remaining spiritually unable to taste its meaning. You can know the definition of tawakkul and still live as though everything depends upon you. The Arabic word qalb carries the meaning of turning. The heart changes. It turns toward Allah and then becomes distracted. It softens and then hardens. It remembers and then falls into ghafla. This is why the heart requires constant care. You do not purify the heart once and then assume the work is finished. Tazkiyah is an ongoing struggle because the inner condition is always being influenced by what you see, repeat, desire, fear, consume, and obey. Anxiety can cover the heart by filling its field of attention. The fear becomes so loud that every event is interpreted through it. A delayed response becomes rejection, a mistake becomes catastrophe, a bodily sensation becomes disaster, a difficult day becomes proof that life will never improve. The heart begins to see through a veil. This does not mean the heart is dead, it means perception has become clouded. Imagine a window covered with dust. The light has not disappeared, but the window cannot receive it clearly. In the same way, the mercy of Allah has not disappeared, the truth has not changed, and the door of return has not closed. But fear, sin, resentment, exhaustion, and heedlessness can make the heart feel as though no light is reaching it. Some hearts become covered through repeated pain. A person is betrayed many times and begins to believe no one can be trusted. A person is humiliated and begins to believe vulnerability is weakness. A person makes da'ah during hardship but does not receive the answer they expected, so they become afraid to hope again. They still pray, but they protect themselves from disappointment by expecting nothing. This emotional defense can enter the relationship with Allah. You may say, I trust Allah, but avoid making sincere dua because you fear disappointment. You may keep worship formal and emotionally distant. You perform salah, but do not allow yourself to ask honestly. You fear that if you hope, the pain of delay will become unbearable. We need to be careful here. Allah is not like the people who wounded you, but a wounded heart may unconsciously project human betrayal onto the divine relationship. Because your father was unpredictable, authority feels unsafe. Because your mother used guilt, love feels manipulative. Because people abandoned you, dependence feels dangerous. Then the command to rely upon Allah touches the place where you learned that reliance leads to pain. The healing of this distortion takes time. It requires knowledge of Allah, not merely information about religious rules. You need to know His mercy, wisdom, justice, power, nearness, forgiveness, and care. You need to learn that Allah's response is not limited to giving you the exact outcome you requested. He may give, delay, redirect, protect, purify, expose, replace, or reserve. The servant sees one moment. Allah knows the complete reality. Sin can also cover the heart. I'm not saying every anxious person is anxious because of sin. That would be careless and false. But we must not move to the opposite extreme and pretend that disobedience has no emotional or spiritual effect. Certain sins create inner fragmentation. The person wants closeness to Allah while repeatedly choosing what distances the heart. They want peace while feeding themselves images, relationships, conversations, and habits that intensify restlessness. A person may pray for calm while spending hours consuming fear, comparison, outrage, sexual stimulation, gossip, or endless entertainment. Then they wonder why silence feels unbearable. The heart has been trained to require constant input. Dhikr feels slow because the nafs has become addicted to stimulation. Salah feels empty because attention has been scattered across 100 artificial desires. Resentment can cover the heart as well. When pain is not processed with justice and spiritual discipline, it can become a permanent inner conversation. You keep arguing with people who are not present. You imagine what you should have said. You replay the betrayal. You fantasize about their regret. You wait for Allah to punish them in a way you can witness. Your body leaves the event, but your heart continues living inside it. Islam permits the oppressed person to recognize oppression. Forgiveness is not the denial of injustice. Boundaries are not bitterness. Seeking lawful protection is not lack of sabr. But there is a point where remembering what happened stops serving justice and starts feeding poison. The offender may no longer be present, yet you continue giving them space inside your qalb. Ghafla also covers the heart. Ghafla is not simply forgetting a religious fact. It is living without active awareness of Allah. You may believe in Allah, but move through the day as though your income, reputation, relationships, and safety depend entirely upon creation. You remember Allah during crisis, then return to unconscious dependence upon the world. Anxiety grows easily in ghafla because the self feels alone with the universe. It looks at the future and sees only its own limited resources. It forgets that provision is from Allah, that life and death are with Allah, that hearts are turned by Allah, that openings and closures occur by His permission, and that no event escapes His knowledge. The heart is not healed by shouting religious slogans at it. It is healed through repeated remembrance, truthful reflection, repentance, lawful action, and experiences of returning to Allah during fear. Every time anxiety rises and you choose not to obey its worst demand, the heart learns something. Every time you pray while unsettled, make dhikr while distracted, set a boundary despite guilt, or refuse haram comfort despite emotional pain, the veil becomes thinner. Do not confuse a tired heart with a destroyed heart. Do not confuse spiritual numbness with permanent death. The qalb may be heavy, defensive, distracted, or covered, but by Allah's permission it can turn again. Modern psychology has developed useful ways of understanding anxiety. It can help a person identify distorted thinking, regulate the body, process trauma, establish boundaries, change harmful behavior, and recognize patterns formed in childhood. These tools should not be dismissed simply because they are modern. Wisdom should be evaluated fairly. A Muslim does not need to reject every psychological method in order to protect faith. For some people, therapy is not a luxury. It may be an important part of treatment and recovery. Medical evaluation may be necessary. Anxiety can be connected to physical health, medication effects, sleep deprivation, hormonal conditions, trauma, or other factors that require professional attention. Seeking qualified help does not oppose tawakkul. Taking the means is part of tawakkul. But this is where modern psychology often stops. It may help you regulate fear, but not tell you what your fear means in relation to Allah. It may help you protect your boundaries, but not teach you how to guard those boundaries without arrogance, cruelty, or self-worship. It may help you reduce guilt, but not always distinguish toxic shame from the healthy moral pain that should lead to tawbah. It may help you accept yourself, but may not ask which parts of the self require purification rather than affirmation. Islamic psychology sees the human being differently. You are not only a nervous system. You are not only a collection of childhood experiences. You are not only your thoughts, attachments, hormones, wounds, or behaviors. You are a created servant with a body, mind, nafs, qalb, ruh, moral responsibility, and fitrah. You live in the visible world, but you are also connected to the unseen. Your life has meaning beyond comfort. Your actions have consequences beyond immediate emotion. Your healing is not complete if you feel better but move further from Allah. Modern self-help frequently places the self at the center. It tells you to protect your peace, choose yourself, follow your truth, remove anyone who disturbs your energy, and never feel guilty for putting yourself first. Some of this language may help people who have been exploited. A person who has never been allowed to say no may need to learn boundaries. A person trapped in abuse may need to leave. A person conditioned to tolerate humiliation may need to recognize their dignity. But without spiritual guidance, self-protection can become self-worship, boundaries can become avoidance, independence can become arrogance, healing can become an excuse to abandon responsibility. Protecting my peace can become a religious-sounding way of refusing correction, cutting family ties impulsively, or escaping every relationship that requires patience. Islamic psychology asks a harder question. It does not ask only, what makes me feel safe? It asks, what pleases Allah, protects dignity, fulfills responsibility, and prevents harm? Sometimes the answer is to stay patient. Sometimes it is to speak firmly. Sometimes it is to leave. Sometimes it is to forgive without reconciling. Sometimes it is to reconcile with conditions. Sometimes it is to accept that another person will misunderstand you. Islam does not make comfort the highest goal. The prophets were not always comfortable. The righteous were not free from pain. A meaningful life is not a life without distress. The goal is not to design a world in which nothing triggers you. The goal is to become a servant whose heart can remain oriented toward Allah when triggered, tested, praised, rejected, given, or deprived. Modern psychology may tell you that your anxiety comes from the need for certainty. Islamic psychology agrees, but goes further. It asks why the human being is demanding a form of certainty that belongs to Allah's knowledge. It asks whether anxiety has become a struggle against servanthood itself. The servant acts without controlling the decree. The servant plans without knowing the unseen. The servant asks without commanding the answer. The servant fears, but does not make fear the final authority. Modern approaches may teach cognitive reframing, examine the thought, test the evidence, replace catastrophic assumptions with balanced ones. This can be useful. Islamic psychology adds another layer. Even if the feared outcome happens, Allah remains Allah. Your life does not become meaningless. Your worth is not erased. Your final destination is not controlled by the event. You may be hurt, but you are not outside divine knowledge, mercy, or wisdom. This is not an excuse for passivity. Tawakkul does not mean sitting still while problems grow. If you are in danger, seek safety. If you are ill, seek treatment. If you are oppressed, seek lawful protection. If you lack skills, learn. If you have debt, make a plan. If your environment feeds anxiety, change what you can. The Prophet's teaching was never to abandon the means. Reliance upon Allah includes responsible action, but action has a limit. There comes a point where you have made the call, attended the appointment, sought advice, completed the application, apologized, set the boundary, checked the facts, and done what is reasonably possible. After that point, continued mental spinning is not additional responsibility. It is the Nafs refusing to surrender. Islamic psychology does not remove useful modern tools. It places them inside a complete understanding of the human being. Breathing exercises may calm the body. Cognitive work may challenge distorted thoughts. Therapy may help process trauma. Medication may reduce severe symptoms. But the qalb still needs Allah, the nafs still needs discipline, sin still requires tawbah, meaning still requires revelation, death still exists, accountability still exists, the afterlife still exists. Modern psychology may name the wound, but Islamic psychology asks what happened to the soul. And more importantly, it asks where the soul must return. The Islamic path of healing begins with honesty, not performance, not pretending, not repeating religious phrases while refusing to examine what is happening inside you. You must become honest with Allah about your fear. Tell Him what you are afraid of. Tell Him what you are trying to control. Tell Him what outcome you cannot accept. Tell Him where your trust feels weak. Dua is not a presentation. You do not need to appear emotionally composed before Allah. You are already known. Your fear is already known. Your attachment is already known. Your confusion is already known. Speak with adab, but speak truthfully. Say, my Lord, I know you are in control, but my heart is struggling to live by what my mind knows. Help me trust you. Help me take the right means. Protect me from surrendering to fear. Then begin muhasabah. Do not merely ask, why am I anxious? Ask more precise questions. What am I afraid of losing? Whose approval have I turned into a source of life? What outcome do I believe must happen for me to be okay? What action am I avoiding? What responsibility am I exaggerating? What sin am I using to escape discomfort? What false belief about Allah is hiding beneath this fear? Write the answers if necessary. Anxiety often feels like one large cloud, but muhasabah separates the cloud into specific realities. Some fears require action, some require grief, some require repentance, some require boundaries, some require professional help, some require acceptance. Some are waswasa and should not be endlessly debated. Tawbah is central because healing is not only about what others did to you, it is also about how you responded. Perhaps you were wounded, but then you became controlling. Perhaps you were betrayed, but then you began suspecting everyone. Perhaps you felt lonely, but sought haram attachment. Perhaps you were anxious, but used anger to dominate people. Perhaps you were ashamed, but lied to protect your image. Tawbah allows you to say, what happened to me was wrong, but I will not use it to justify what I am doing wrong. True tawbah is not self-humiliation without change. It includes recognizing the wrong, feeling sincere regret, stopping the behavior, returning to Allah, repairing harm where possible, and building conditions that reduce the chance of returning to the same pattern. If your anxiety leads you repeatedly toward a particular sin, do not only repent after the sin, study the road that leads to it. What time does it happen? What emotion comes first? What environment weakens you? Which device, conversation, person or habit opens the door? Dhikr is also essential, but I want you to understand dhikr beyond counting words. Dhikr is the return of attention to Allah. Anxiety repeatedly pulls attention into imagined futures. Dhikr brings attention back to the one who owns the future. This is why remembrance can be difficult when the mind is anxious. The mind wants to solve. Dhikr asks it to remember. The mind wants prediction. Dhikr returns it to presence. Do not abandon dhikr because you feel distracted. The distracted heart needs dhikr more, not less. Repeat simple, authentic forms of remembrance with understanding. Seek forgiveness. Praise Allah. Declare His oneness. Send peace and blessings upon the Prophet. Recite Quran slowly. Do not measure every act by whether it immediately removes anxiety. Worship is not valid only when it produces instant emotional relief. Sometimes dhikr will calm you. Sometimes you will remain anxious while remembering Allah. Both moments have value. In the second moment, you are teaching the nafs that worship does not depend on mood. You are saying, even when my body is afraid, my tongue will remember. Even when my thoughts are loud, I will keep returning. Salah must become an anchor rather than another performance you judge. Many anxious Muslims rush to prayer and then feel guilty that they were not focused. I want you to stop expecting perfect concentration before you begin rebuilding your salah. Come as you are, but do not remain careless. Slow down where you can. Understand what you are saying. Pause. Notice when the mind runs away and bring it back without theatrical self-hatred. The purpose is not to create a flawless emotional experience. The purpose is to stand before Allah repeatedly until the heart remembers where it belongs. 5 times a day, you leave the illusion that everything depends on you. You face the Qibla, raise your hands and declare that Allah is greater. Greater than the message you are waiting for. Greater than the diagnosis you fear. Greater than the person you cannot release. Greater than the future you cannot predict. Sabr must also be understood correctly. Sabr is not passive suffering, it is disciplined steadiness. It is holding yourself upon what is right while pain is present. Sometimes sabr means waiting, sometimes it means acting, sometimes it means refusing revenge, sometimes it means leaving a harmful place, sometimes it means continuing treatment, sometimes it means accepting that healing is slower than your nafs demands. Tawakkul comes after taking the means, but it also accompanies the means. You do not take action as though the action itself controls the result. You use the means because Allah created a world of causes, but you do not worship the causes. The doctor treats, but Allah grants healing. The employer signs the contract, but Allah provides. The person may apologize, but Allah softens hearts. The plan may be excellent, but success remains by Allah's permission. A practical tawakkul routine may begin with separating what is yours from what belongs to Allah. Your responsibility may be to prepare, communicate, seek counsel, work, apologize, study, leave sin, establish boundaries, or attend treatment. The outcome belongs to Allah. Write these 2 categories clearly. Anxiety mixes them together and makes you feel responsible for both. Good companionship matters because the nafs is influenced by its environment. If you spend your time with people who constantly predict disaster, spread suspicion, obsess over status, mock religious discipline, or feed every fear, your heart will struggle. You need people who are emotionally honest and spiritually grounded, not people who dismiss your anxiety and not people who strengthen it. People who can say, your pain is real, but this thought is not truthful. Take the necessary step and then return the matter to Allah. Service can also heal the anxious self. Anxiety makes the inner world extremely narrow. Everything becomes about your safety, your future, your image, your pain. Serving others breaks this contraction. Help someone, give charity, visit family with healthy limits, teach something useful, support a person quietly. Service reminds the Nafs that you are capable of benefit even while you are struggling. Discipline is necessary because healing cannot depend entirely on inspiration. Sleep matters, food matters, movement matters, what you watch matters, who you speak to matters, your daily structure matters. A chaotic lifestyle can intensify an already anxious system. Spirituality is not an excuse to ignore the body. The body is part of the trust Allah has given you. Boundaries are also part of healing. Tawakkul does not require you to remain accessible to people who repeatedly harm you. You can rely upon Allah and lock the door. You can forgive and still maintain distance. You can honor family ties without allowing abuse. You can be patient without becoming passive. Boundaries should not be driven by revenge, but they may be required by wisdom. The Islamic path is not one technique. It is a life of return. Tawbah after slipping, muhasabah after confusion, dhikr after heedlessness, salah after distraction, sabr during pain, lawful action during uncertainty, and tawakkul when the outcome leaves your hands. Now I need to speak to you directly. Healing will remain limited if you keep feeding the same inner forces that are making surrender impossible. You cannot ask Allah for peace while protecting every habit that produces chaos. You cannot make dua for freedom while continuing to nourish the prison. You must stop feeding endless overthinking. I am not telling you to stop using your mind. I am telling you to recognize when thinking has become circular. There is a point where analysis stops creating clarity and starts producing intoxication. You become absorbed in possibilities. You repeat the same evidence. You seek reassurance, feel calm for 10 minutes, and then ask again. Set limits. Give a real problem a specific period for thought, consultation, and decision. When the decision has been made, do not reopen the case every hour unless new information appears. The anxious mind will protest. It will say, but what if we missed something? You must answer, perhaps we did. I am not all-knowing. I have acted responsibly, and now I accept my human limit. You must stop feeding reassurance addiction. Constantly asking people whether everything will be okay does not create tawakkul. It temporarily transfers the burden of uncertainty onto another human being. But no human can guarantee your future. When their reassurance fades, the fear returns. Seek advice when needed, but do not turn people into emotional idols whose words must keep your heart alive. You must stop feeding catastrophic imagination. Not every possibility deserves your attention. The mind can create 1,000 disasters, but imagination is not revelation. A thought is not a prophecy. A fear is not evidence. Waswasa often survives because you treat every mental event as meaningful. Some thoughts should be examined, others should be ignored. If the thought has no evidence, no useful action, and no new information, stop debating it. Seek refuge in Allah, redirect attention, and continue with your responsibility. The more you argue with every whisper, the more importance you give it. You must stop feeding the victim identity. Let me be careful here. You may truly have been a victim of injustice, abuse, betrayal, neglect, or manipulation. Naming that truth is not weakness. But victimhood becomes an identity when everything in the present is explained through what happened in the past. Every correction feels like blame. Every responsibility feels unfair. Every relationship becomes a courtroom. Pain can become an identity, but Islam turns pain into purification. This does not mean the pain was good. It means Allah can bring good from what was evil. But that transformation requires your participation. You must decide that the wound will be part of your story, not the author of every chapter. You must stop feeding toxic attachments. Some of you are asking Allah to remove anxiety while holding tightly to a person who repeatedly creates it. You study their messages, moods, online activity, attention, and silence. Your emotional condition rises and falls according to their behavior. You call it love, but your heart has become dependent. Love does not require the destruction of your center. Attachment becomes spiritually dangerous when a created person begins occupying the place of ultimate reliance. You feel that without them you cannot live, cannot heal, cannot be valuable, or cannot have a future. This is not simply love. It is bondage of the heart. You must stop feeding haram comfort. Anxiety creates a strong desire for immediate relief, but relief obtained through disobedience often returns as deeper unrest. The Nafs promises that the sin will calm you. It does not show you the shame, fragmentation, secrecy, spiritual numbness, and stronger craving that may follow. Do not tell yourself that because you are wounded, your choices do not matter. Allah knows your weakness, but His mercy should not be used as permission to remain careless. Seek help, reduce access to the sin, change your environment, create accountability, and keep making tawbah without despair. You must stop feeding self-hatred. Self-hatred may feel religious because it uses severe language, but it often keeps the person trapped. When you call yourself worthless, you are not becoming humble. You are becoming obsessed with yourself in a negative form. Humility says, I am a servant who makes mistakes and needs Allah. Self-hatred says, my failure is greater than Allah's mercy and I am uniquely beyond repair. Do not confuse remorse with hopelessness. Remorse returns you to Allah. Hopelessness makes you hide. Tawbah does not require you to believe you are good. It requires you to believe Allah is merciful and that His command to return is more truthful than your feeling of unworthiness. You must stop feeding comparison. Every hour spent studying another person's life is an hour in which you may be neglecting your own amana. You do not need their timeline. You need faithfulness to yours. Their blessing is not proof of your rejection. Their ease is not proof that Allah has forgotten you. You must stop feeding spiritual laziness disguised as emotional struggle. There will be days when anxiety genuinely reduces your capacity. Be compassionate with those limits, but do not use compassion as an excuse to abandon every discipline. Even on difficult days, do something. Pray what is obligatory. Make brief dhikr. Read a small portion. Take one responsible step. Healing is built through consistency, not emotional intensity. You must stop feeding resentment toward the decree. You may not understand why something happened. You may grieve deeply. You may ask Allah for relief. But be careful of repeatedly telling yourself that your life should have been different and that you cannot live unless the past is rewritten. The past will not be rewritten, but your relationship with it can change. Acceptance does not mean approval of injustice. It means you stop demanding that reality become different before you begin living responsibly in the present. And finally, you must stop feeding the belief that tawakkul should feel easy. Sometimes reliance will feel peaceful. Sometimes it will feel like placing a trembling hand into the care of Allah. Sometimes you will surrender the same fear 50 times in one day. That does not make the surrender false. It means the nafs is being trained. You are not failing because the fear returns. You fail only when you decide the fear deserves obedience every time it speaks. The world may call you broken, but Islam says your fitrah is still alive. Beneath the fear, beneath the compulsive thinking, beneath the attachment, shame, exhaustion, and spiritual confusion, there remains within you a created capacity to recognize truth and return to Allah. Fitrah does not mean you have never been affected by life. It does not mean your childhood wounds were unreal or your sins left no mark. It means the deepest truth about you is not defined by the distortion. You were created with an orientation toward your Lord. That orientation can become buried, neglected, confused, or covered, but it is not easily erased. This is why some part of you continues searching. Even after disappointment, you still want to believe. Even after sin, you still feel the pull of tawbah. Even when salah feels empty, something inside you knows you should not abandon it. Even when anxiety tells you that you are alone, some part of your qalb still longs to place the burden down. That longing matters. It is not proof that you are already healed, but it is evidence that the door of return remains open. Returning to fitrah means removing what is artificial, the false identity that says, I must control everything, the false belief that says, I'm only valuable when people approve of me, the false attachment that says, I cannot survive without this person, the false shame that says, my sin is greater than Allah's mercy, the false spirituality that says, if my iman were real, I would never feel anxious. Your fitrah knows that you are a servant, not the controller of the decree. The nafs finds this humiliating, but the qalb finds it freeing. You were never supposed to manage the universe. You were never supposed to guarantee that everyone stays, that every plan succeeds, that every danger is avoided, or that every prayer is answered according to your preferred timeline. Your responsibility is real, but it is limited. This limit is not a defect. It is part of your servanthood. When you accept it, tawakkul begins to become possible. Returning to fitrah also means recovering a truthful image of Allah. Many anxious Muslims do not realize that their inner image of Allah has been shaped by human authority. They imagine that Allah is waiting to punish every weakness, expose every flaw, remove every blessing, or reject every imperfect attempt. But the Quran repeatedly directs the servant toward Allah's mercy, forgiveness, wisdom, nearness, and acceptance of repentance. This does not remove accountability. It places accountability inside mercy. Allah is not indifferent to sin, but neither is He looking for a reason to reject the servant who sincerely returns. Hope in Allah is not denial. It is not claiming that every worldly outcome will be pleasant. It is believing that no sincere return is wasted, no lawful patience is unseen, no hidden struggle is unknown, and no decree can separate the faithful servant from Allah unless the servant turns away. Your anxiety may remain present during parts of this journey. Healing does not always happen in a straight line. Some days you may feel strong, and then one event reactivates old fear. Do not interpret every difficult day as a return to the beginning. A healed person may still be triggered. The difference is that the trigger no longer controls the entire direction of life. You will notice healing when you can feel fear without immediately obeying it, when uncertainty is uncomfortable but not unbearable, when you can make a decision without checking it 20 times, when you can ask Allah deeply without demanding one answer, when you can love people without making them responsible for your entire emotional survival, when you can acknowledge pain without turning it into your permanent identity. You will know this healing when salah becomes a place of return rather than a test of whether you are a good Muslim, when dhikr becomes a rope you hold even before you feel calm, when tawbah becomes immediate rather than delayed by shame, when boundaries become clear without hatred, when your private life becomes cleaner because you no longer need haram relief to survive every difficult emotion. You will notice healing when you stop asking, how can I make sure nothing painful ever happens? And begin asking, how can I remain with Allah whatever happens? That is a different life. It is not a life without grief. It is a life in which grief is not God. It is not a life without uncertainty. It is a life in which uncertainty does not erase meaning. It is not a life without fear. It is a life in which fear does not replace obedience. The classical scholars of the heart repeatedly emphasized that the human being is always traveling towards something. The heart cannot remain completely empty. If it does not depend upon Allah, it will depend excessively upon creation. If it does not seek peace through remembrance, it will seek sedation through distraction. If it does not submit to truth, it will submit to desire, fear, status, approval, or control. Your task is not merely to remove anxiety. Your task is to redirect the heart. Anxiety may be one symptom of a deeper displacement. The qalb has been trying to find safety in what changes. People change, health changes, money changes, circumstances change, emotions change. Only Allah does not change. This does not mean you withdraw from the world. You continue loving, working, planning, building, seeking treatment, and fulfilling responsibilities. But you stop asking the world to give what only Allah can give: ultimate security, complete meaning, and a foundation that cannot collapse. Returning to fitrah is not becoming someone else. It is becoming less controlled by what covered you. The fear may have shaped you, but it did not create you. The sin may have stained you, but it did not become your essence. The rejection may have wounded you, but it did not determine your worth. The delay may have tested you, but it did not prove abandonment. The world may call you broken, but Islam says your fitrah is still alive. And because it is alive, return is possible. I want you to leave with one serious reminder. Tawakkul is not the moment when you finally become certain that everything will happen the way you want. Tawakkul is the moment you accept that even when you do not know what will happen, you know who Allah is. You may not know whether the relationship will survive. You may not know whether the opportunity will come. You may not know whether the illness will improve quickly. You may not know whether people will understand you, whether your plans will succeed, or whether the path ahead will become easier. Tawakkul does not give you ownership of those answers. It gives you a place to stand without them. You stand in servanthood. You take the lawful means. You seek knowledge. You consult wise people. You receive medical or psychological support when necessary. You establish boundaries. You make tawbah. You repair what you can. You discipline the nafs. You remember Allah. You return to salah. You refuse to make fear your authority. Then, when your effort reaches its limit, you do not continue punishing yourself for being human. You place the outcome with Allah. Perhaps your hands will tremble as you let go. Let them tremble. Letting go does not need to feel effortless to be sincere. Perhaps the fear will return tomorrow. Return to Allah tomorrow. Perhaps it will return an hour later. Return again. This is Tazkiyah, not becoming perfect in one emotional breakthrough, but repeatedly cleansing the heart from false dependence. This is muhasabah, not hating yourself, but seeing yourself truthfully. This is tawbah, not pretending you never fell, but refusing to remain where you fell. This is sabr, not feeling nothing, but remaining steady while feeling deeply. This is tawakkul, not abandoning action, but abandoning the belief that action controls the decree. Your anxiety is not your Lord. Your trauma is not your identity. Your past is not your final destination. Your nafs can be trained. Your qalb can be polished. Your habits can change. Your relationship with Allah can become more honest than it has ever been. The wound is real, but it is not your final name. Return to Allah with the fear you have, not the fearlessness you think you must manufacture. Return with your confusion, your weakness, your unanswered questions, and your imperfect concentration. Return before you feel ready. Return because the heart does not heal by waiting at a distance. The nafs wants escape, but the qalb needs return. And by the mercy of Allah, the heart that returns again and again does not remain the same.